What if true power wasn't in the strike, but in the shadow it casts across generations? Have you ever sensed the ghost of your unchosen self, a silhouette forged in the fires of what might have been, like the phantom limbs of gladiators in Rome's Colosseum, aching for battles long surrendered, or the quiet regrets of soldiers at Waterloo, their muskets cold against the dawn of defeat? In episode 10 of Sakamoto Days Season 2, aired on September 9, 2025, as the JCC exam arc spirals into its ferocious denouement, we confront the inexorable pull of Legacy's double-edged blade. The air crackles with the ozone bite of unleashed fury, palms slick with the phantom sweat of exertion. The metallic clang of improvised armaments rings like church bells tolling Judgment Day, while shadows stretch long under fluorescent haze, tasting of iron resolve and unspoken farewells. I was right there in the Academy's crumbling corridors, heart slamming against ribs like a caged beast, the ground trembling beneath me as titans clashed in a ballet of brutality and grace. This chapter doesn't merely escalate, it illuminates the chasm between the man you are and the monster you might reclaim, evoking a primal curiosity. When the past crashes in like a tidal wave of vengeance, do you surf its crest or drown in its undertow? It's a half-unveiled mosaic of mayhem and mentorship, igniting an insatiable itch to delve deeper, for the full fury demands your presence, lest the echoes of those strikes reverberate unanswered in your own silenced nights. From Episode 9's seismic disclosures, where bloodlines intertwined like the serpentine alliances in Machiavelli's Florentine courts, shattering illusions amid the exam's escalating siege. This installment unleashes the arc's apex, a maelstrom of mechanized menace evoking the mechanized horrors of Verdun's no man's land, but laced with the precision of a watchmaker's wrath. Central tempests whirl around a berserk automaton's rampage through the test grounds, drawing unlikely comrades into a symphony of strategy and sacrifice that bridges desperation to deliverance, while a titan's timely descent reframes the chaos, hurtling survivors toward institutional reckonings. Envision it intimately, the acrid sting of scorched circuits in your nostrils, boots skidding on debris-strewn tile like the slick decks of a storm-tossed frigate, a teammate's urgent grip anchoring you as behemoths loom. What desperate gambits does youth muster against engineered apocalypse? How does a father's shadow eclipse the fray, propelling the narrative into shadowed syndicates? These eddies of action swirl just shy of revelation, a vortex of veiled valor that tugs relentlessly at your sleeve, compelling you to lean in, to feel the pulse of peril quicken, because the storms I hold's truths only your gaze can pierce, an allure as unyielding as fate's inexorable draft. Plot progression hurdles the JCC saga to its blistering close, akin to the climactic charges in Saving Private Ryan's Omaha Sands, where survival hinges on synchronized savagery. Revelations expose the puppetry behind the proxy's fury, a twist that unmasks institutional puppeteers while Sakamoto's aerial incursion delivers a jaw-dropping pivot, capping in a cliffhanger that scatters embers into broader conspiracies, pacing a masterful tempest of taut build-ups exploding into balletic brawls, balancing introspection's lulls with adrenaline's gale without capsizing into overload. Fans frequently probe cloudy aspects, like the VR proxy's abrupt berserk shift or Sakamoto's improbable airplane hijack, per Yudo Suzuki's manga, chapters 71 to 73, Hard Mode, So Long, and Killer Lotto Scratch. The frenzy stems from Gaku's fragmented consciousness overloading the Shinaya drone, a subtlety the anime amplifies for spectacle, where the berserk mode echoes CH-71's remote sabotage, not malice but malfunction, clarifying the chaos as a metaphor for fractured control amid JCC. Corruption, Sakamoto's feat, a stylized flourish on CH-72's intervention, draws from the manga's understated drop-in but elevates it to cinematic excess, underscoring the arc's end CH-72, with slur scouting hints at order machinations, lending the animated whirlwind deeper context as a bridge from exam farce to syndicate shadows, rewarding readers with layered irony while tantalizing viewers with veiled hierarchies. Character development tempers souls in the crucible. Shin's arc gleams with hard-won maturity, his wounds from perennial underdog shadows, evocative of the overlooked apprentices in Leonardo's Milanese atelier, driving motivations that surprise in their tactical brilliance, choices transformative as a squire's knighting yet anchored in his earnest camaraderie. Kaji's quiet storm brews into reluctant heroism, her growth a subtle unfurling from observer to operative. Mafuyu and Torimaru's tandem reveals fractures of doubt turned defiance, their dialogues a mosaic of quips masking profound pivots. Thematically, the episode dissects power's hollow throne and sacrifices sharpening stone in survival's arena, manifesting in clashes where hope's flicker battles despair's deluge, like the Alamo's defiant last stand, where outnumbered souls etched eternity in defeat, choices that interrogate morality's flex under legacy's lash. World-building sharpens with JCC's underbelly, proxy ethics and syndicate scouts complicating the assassin cosmos like concealed trapdoors in a a shogun's pavilion. The script's dialogue parries with rapier wit. A barked command mid-melee foreshadows fallout. Lines sharp as Occam's razor yet laced with poignant pauses. Impactful as Hemingway's iceberg in The Old Man and the Sea, echoing long after like the toll of a victor's bell. Sense the reverberation in your chest as taunts fly. The fleeting brush of a savior's silhouette. Reader, in your own tempests, have you summoned the giant within, or waited for its shadow to fall? TMS Entertainment's animation slices with surgical flair. Art direction revels in kinetic contrasts of crimson flares against institutional grays, symbolizing restrained fury's eruption like Caravaggio's Tenebrism in Judith beheading Holofernes. Fluidity in aerial acrobatics yielding to frozen frames. Of impact that sculpt emotional rawness. Not flashy pyrotechnics, but a kinetic elegy to the body's defiant poetry. Direction wields cinematography as a duelist's feint. Sweeping overheads dwarfing figures against monolithic halls, a la John Wick balletic gun-fu, compositions layering foreground frenzy over receding escapes, editing staccato pulses, quick cuts to lingering beats, mirroring synaptic surges to amplify the thrill of teetering thresholds. The OST prowls as an unseen assassin, motifs of pulsing percussion haunting the build-up like Bernstein's tense swells in on the waterfront, crescendos that brand the intervention into eardrum etchings, while silences slice sharper than steel, evoking the loaded pause before a guillotine's fall. Voice acting vivifies the visceral. Shin Siyu infuses a timbre of boyish grit cracking into resolve, tremors embodying a youth's forge. The proxy's mechanical monotone conveys soulless menace, intensity a hollow echo of human hubris. This episode thrummed through me like a live wire, a euphoric bruise of exhilaration mingled with wistful awe, instance of synchronized salvation amid mechanized maelstrom kindling wonder at camaraderie's unyielding alloy. Much like the unbreakable lines at the Battle of Britain, I shouldered the surge as kin, veins alight during a cataclysmic convergence where mentors and ments entwine, a nexus that catapults the chronicle into syndicate storms. It stirs perennial parries. In Power's shadowed gallery, does one master the blade or serve its swing? Have you, in Frenzy's forge, glimpsed the titan asleep in your sinews? This is that awakening writ vivid, philosophical afterimages flickering from Thermopylae's past to your veiled potentials. Curiosity a honed edge, slicing toward the episode that summons, vowing to temper or test, employing reverse reading, the proxy's swift downfall or Sakamoto's outsized entrance, potentially jarring in their brevity, aren't blunted tips but artful thrusts, echoing the manga's ironic undercuts to heighten thematic levity amid lethality, though the anime's amped spectacle risks, eclipsing quieter beats, a measured murmur against its propulsive pulse. Opacity in syndicate teases may baffle the uninitiated, yet it whets appetite for arcs ahead. I think it courts overkill for purists, but personally, I was struck by the audacity, even as it flirts with excess. Episode 10's masterstrokes, razor character evolutions, arc-closing catharsis and choreographed carnage, eclipse its stylized swells, fulfilling narrative mandates of kinetic kinship and artistic acuity with unflinching finesse. It crescendos as the JCC's ferocious finale, alloying humor's glint with action's gleam. Yet as syndicate silhouettes sharpen on the horizon, one shadow lingers. When your inner giant stirs, will you leash it or let it redefine the dawn? Viewing is no sidestep, it's the clash you ache for, the legacy that lances your latent lore. Will you draw steel or fade into the footnotes? Hashtag. Have you ever felt the weight of legacy, a shadowed blade carved from bloodlines long forgotten? What if your inheritance wasn't gold or glory, but a lineage of shadows, where every strike echoes the ghosts of assassins past, like the cursed daggers of the Borgias, poisoning futures with their venomous whisper, or the silent oaths of samurai in the mists of Sekigahara, binding honor to inevitable doom? In Episode 9 of Sakamoto Days Season 2, released on September 1, 2025, amid the escalating chaos of the JCC exam arc where tests of skill devolve into arenas of survival, we grapple with the forge of identity under pressure. The air hums with the metallic tang of clashing steel, sweat-slick grips on weapons that pulse like extensions of the heart. The distant roar of combat mingles with the acrid smoke of revelations, sight blurred by the haze of familial phantoms rising unbidden. I stood there in the fray, pulse thundering as alliances teetered on the edge of betrayal, the ground slick underfoot like the bloodied decks of Trafalgar's fateful clash. This episode doesn't just intensify the hunt, it excavates the soul's hidden vaults, leaving you haunted by queries. When the past unsheathes its truths, do you wield them as weapons, or let them sever your path? It's a tantalizing veil over deeper cuts, stirring an unquenchable thirst to pierce it, because only in witnessing can you claim the legacy's sharp edge for yourself. Building from the previous episode's mounting tensions, where the JCC's rigorous trials began fracturing like the walls of Troy under relentless siege, exposing vulnerabilities in even the steadiest hands, Days. This installment plunges deeper into the exam's heart, a coliseum of cunning and carnage reminiscent of the gladiatorial pits, where Spartacus defied Rome's iron grip. Key sequences orbit a daring confrontation against a formidable proxy, interwoven with acts of heroism that salvage allies from the brink, culminating in disclosures that redefine bonds and propel the group toward greater perils. Imagine yourself cornered in the Academy's labyrinthine halls, the echo of footsteps amplifying like the ominous drums before Gettysburg's charge, a comrade's labored breath warm against your ear amid the din of unleashed fury. What hidden kinships surface to alter the tide? How does a mentor's shadow lengthen, guiding yet constraining? These ripples tease without submerging, a siren's current pulling you toward the screen, for the full torrent of consequences demands your immersion, an irresistible call to navigate the storm's eye. Plot progression slices forward with lethal precision, advancing the JCC arc toward its bloody zenith much like the escalating vendettas in The Godfather's familial wars, where every alliance harbors a potential grave. Key revelations unravel threads of heritage, a mid-episode twist reframing a character's place in the assassin's tapestry, while proxy battles erupt into cliffhangers that dangle survival by a thread, balanced by pacing that alternates cerebral standoffs with explosive flurries, achieving dramatic equilibrium without dulling the edge. Fans often query cloudy aspects, such as the enigmatic control behind antagonist's avatar or the abrupt escalation of exam violence. Drawing from Yuto Suzuki's manga, specifically chapters 68 to 70, where the JCC exam intensifies post-death row arc, these ambiguities stem from Gaku's Shinaya as a remote-possessed vessel, less foreground in the source to build mystery, but amplified in animation for visceral impact, clarifying that the bloodbath isn't random chaos but a calculated purge. Echoing the manga's theme of institutional corruption, where proctors become pawns in a larger power play, providing context that the episode's frenzy is a stylized escalation of the manga's subtler dread, character development hones sharp insights into psyches. Shin's hidden wounds, from a sidekick's inferiority, akin to the overshadowed squires in Arthurian legends, fuel transformative growth, his choices surprising in their selfless audacity yet consistent with his evolving bond to Sakamoto. Torimaru's idolization fractures under reality's hammer, her motivations shifting from admiration to gritty resolve. Akira's arc deepens with unearthed ties, her quiet demeanor masking a lineage that surprises in its intimacy, fostering growth through reclaimed identity. Thematically, the episode probes powers corrupting forge and morality's tempering in survival's kiln, manifesting in struggles where hope's spark clashes with despair's quench, like the defiant forges of Hephaestus crafting arms. For gods who discard them, choices that weigh legacy against autonomy. World-building enriches with JCC's lore, rules of proxy combat and familial assassin dynasties complicating the universe like adding hidden chambers to a ninja's shadow dojo. Dialogue wields wit like a concealed shuriken, sharp quips amid chaos for shadow fractures, impactful lines resonating like Sun Tzu's stratagems in the art of war, poetic in their economy. Feel the vibration of steel on steel in your grip, the hushed vow cutting through the clamor. Tell me, would you embrace your blood's call, or forge your own path amid the sparks? TMS Entertainment's animation captivates with fluid lethality. Art direction favors stark contrasts of shadow and neon glows symbolizing inner turmoil, like Kurosawa's chiaroscuro in Yojimbo amplifying isolation amid crowds, movement in acrobatic duels yielding to still frames that etch emotional pauses, not mere spectacle, but a visual poetry of fleeting mortality. Direction employs dynamic angles, low sweeps mirroring a predator's stalk, compositions framing figures against institutional monoliths, editing's rapid cuts syncing with heart-pounding tension to heighten the soul's edge. The OST emerges as a stealthy accomplice, motifs of taut strings haunting pursuits like Morricone's whistles in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, crescendo's searing clashes into memory, while silences loom louder than blades, evoking the pregnant hush before a duel at high noon. Voice acting embodies essence. Shin's Siyu delivers tremors of determination, timbre a honed blade cutting through doubt, antagonist's growls infuse chilling detachment, intensity forging a villain's unyielding core. This episode carved me with empathetic precision, a lingering ache of aspiration laced with familial wonder, moments of selfless valor amid turmoil sparking awe at human tenacity, much like the resilient bonds in the trenches of Passchendaele. I bore the weight as my own, chest tightening during a convergence of heritages that shatters illusions, a fulcrum levering the saga toward uncharted vendettas. It echoes universal blades. In the shadow of forebears, does one inherit the kill or redefine the strike? Have you felt that ancestral pull, a whisper in the dark? This is that incision amplified, philosophical echoes rippling from Cain's mark to your hidden lineages. Curiosity a fresh wound, compelling you to the episode where truths wait to heal or deepen. Through reverse reading, perceived flaws like the Avatar's opaque mechanics or brisk violence aren't dull edges but deliberate strokes, mirroring manga's enigmatic build-up, transforming confusion into thematic intrigue. Though added anime flourishes occasionally blunt the source's subtlety, a critique, tempered by their kinetic enhancement. Complexity may overwhelm newcomers, yet it rewards the attuned. I appreciate the ambition, even if it risks over-sharpening. Episode 9 Strengths. Incisive character forges, lore-enriched propulsion, and auditory lethality outshine its adaptive nicks, triumphing in narrative edge and artistic cut. It succeeds as a pinnacle of the arc, blending comedy's spark with action's blaze. Yet as bloodlines beckon from the abyss, one query haunts. When your legacy draws its blade, will you parry or let it claim your story? Watching isn't a choice. It's the thrust you crave, the wound that awakens your unseen assassin within. Dare you turn away?